Welcome to the Iconics Genesis 64 video guide. This video discusses how to get started using the scripting editor in GraphWorX64. It will cover the creation and calling of a script, how to reference external objects in a script, and how to write values through the use of a script.
In GraphWorX64, it is possible to write custom code in Jscript.net to execute some custom action that you may want to define. To do that, you can use the run script pick action, which is accessible, for example, by using a button. So in the command here, you can select the run script action, and then you will need to associate a script function to be called when your user will click this button. If you look at the command parameters, it says known bind scripts via the events tab. The events tab is accessible by this button. And here, as you can see, we have an event which is the run script event, and if I double click on it, the system will automatically create a function for me which is called pick1_command executed, and will ask me if I also want to add a form for this action. I will skip the form creation and press on OK. The script editor dialog automatically pops out, and I can start writing code into my function. This is the function that will be called whenever I click on this button. So, to start with something simple, I will just visualize a message box here. So, as you can see, there is also IntelliSense for this, so I can select the show method of the message box class and show my message. For example, button clicked. Jscript.net is just a dialect of .NET. It is quite similar to C#. It is just some syntactical differences, but if you're familiar with any .NET language, you will be quickly familiar with Jscript.net as well. So, that's it. I can put my page in runtime mode and try to click on the button. So as soon as I press it, my message is shown. So of course you will replace this simple message box show with something useful. It is also possible to add references to external DLL. All you need to do is to go down here and in a new line, click on this little button and browse for your folders. By default, the components folder for Genesis will be opened. So, for example, you can create your own algorithm or whatever you need to use and add a reference to it, and from here you will be able to use your classes, your objects, as if they were inside the GraphWorks. So this is a very powerful feature. An alternative way, rather than using a pick action, is to use the object events. So for example, let me draw a simple rectangle on the screen. This rectangle has some events exposed, which are accessible from the Events tab. So this is the dynamic tab selected, so let me click on the properties first and then on the events, because these are the events of the rectangle, not of the dynamics. Also because this rectangle has no dynamic associated to it. So as you can see, if you compare this with the events for the pick action here we only have a couple of events exposed. From the rectangle we have a lot more of events exposed. So let's say that I want to do something when I move my mouse over the rectangle and out of the rectangle. I can double click on the mouse enter event and the system will automatically create a function for me. I can also define a custom one or select a custom one from the drop down here, or I can be happy with what the system creates for me. So what I want to do here is to show a message when the user moves the mouse inside the rectangle and when it moves outside. To do that, I will create a process point, which I will put here, which will simply host a message, a string message. Therefore, I will create a local variable from the data browser, which I will call message, whose data type is string. And then, from the code, I will write my message into that process point. I still need to do something before doing that, and that is assigning a name to the process point. You will soon see why. Now, Let's do the mouse enter first. There is a special object called thisConfiguration which allows me to get access to the current display, so the current configuration. And there is a very useful method called getDynamicObjectByName. That's why I gave a name to my pick action. So by calling this method, I get a reference to that object. So now I can work with that object, the process point. What I need to do is to write a value to the data source that is associated to this process point. So I will use this method called writeValue to primary data source, which gets an object as a parameter. So the object will be a string with my message. So mouse inside the rectangle. And I will do the same for the mouse leave, so I copy and paste my code, and of course here I will write mouse outside the rectangle. So I can go into runtime mode, and now you see the message is empty at the beginning because nobody wrote anything to it. But as soon as I move my mouse inside the rectangle, I can see the message, and when I move it outside, the message updates. So in this way you can see that you can hook to events for your objects, either pick action objects or shape object or whatever object you want, and you can subscribe to their events and write custom code. That code can really do anything you want, so it is an extremely powerful feature that can be that can help you to extend the functionalities of the system. Just be aware of not writing code when it is not needed, because GraphWorX is a very powerful tool and you can do many things by using the tools that it exposes to you. So write code only when you are sure that there is not another way to do it, maybe in a simpler way.